name is Brendan Jackson. I'm the Director of Marketing here at DialogTech, and I'm here with Steve Griffiths, who's our SVP of Marketing, Strategy, and Analytics at DialogTech.
Hi, everyone.
Just a reminder that all of your lines are placed on mute, and if you have any questions, please enter them into the Q&A area of the RayTalk software, and we will address them at the end if we have the time. So thanks again for your patience, and we're going to go ahead and just dive right in. The title of our webinar today is 49% ROI mistake marketers don't know they're making. And it really talks about research that we put together ourselves just this month and covers those mistakes and some more insights that we've pulled together. Once again, here are the folks here that are presenting. And I am going to go ahead and hand this over to Steve, who's going to walk you through the agenda and talk about some of these insights.
Thanks, Brendan, and thanks again, everyone, for your patience. We're excited to be with you today. So we're essentially going to cover three things this afternoon. The first is we're going to talk about how mobile first is the new standard in marketing. Nothing shocking there, but we've got some new and interesting data that we think you'll find interesting. And then we'll talk a little bit about one of the unlikely impacts that is happening, which is generating a lot more phone calls into businesses than ever. So we'll cover those two things, and then the bulk of our time will be spent really talking about practical tactics and strategies that you can pursue as marketers to take advantage of the opportunity that the call channel presents and help grow your business. So before we jump into the meat, just so you know who you're hearing from, DialogTech is a company that's the combination of a business that was called If by Phone and another called Mongoose Metrics. Our two companies merged in late 2014, and what we do is we help marketers understand the role that phone calls play in their marketing efforts. We serve a wide range of agencies and corporate marketers, really of any size. And our technology platform enables our customers to really understand where calls are coming from and then use data and intelligence to get those calls to the best place in an organization. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So mobile first is the new standard in marketing. You've heard about mobile for years now, and the first statistics that we want to show you are really how prolific digital ad spend targeting mobile has become. What you're looking at is data from eMarketer, which shows that this year, 49% of digital ad spend will target mobile. So we're already at the halfway point. Furthermore, by 2019, 72% of all digital ad spending will target mobile. So pretty staggering numbers when you think about how mobile was essentially a drop in the bucket even a few years ago. It's now the majority of digital ad budgets. And the reason is because mobile has consumed so many elements of our daily lives. From search, for example, already 50% of searches now occur on mobile device. Social and mobile are almost interchangeable at this point. Take Facebook, for example. 78% of Facebook users are mobile only. And in the case of Twitter, 90% of Twitter ad spending is targeting mobile. And there's similar parallels for video, for email, for e-commerce. Mobile has essentially saturated every digital channel that consumers engage with. And what's happening is it's making the phone ring. So some interesting data from a third-party research firm called BIA-Kelsey, which covers this space pretty closely. They produced some statistics that demonstrated that this year there will be 93 billion phone calls driven into businesses in the U.S. from mobile channels. And that really comprises search, display, social media, and then just traffic to branded landing pages and websites. That's a lot of phone calls already. They're projecting that number to more than double to 162 billion by 2019. So pretty significant growth rates. And the reason is mobile. And the driver really there is kind of interesting. The human beings tend to take the path of least resistance. And when you're on a mobile device, it's often much simpler to press a button, a click to call, and simply call a business versus filling out a form with your thumbs, or navigating through a cumbersome e-commerce checkpoint, or trying to dig for information in a mobile website that may or may not be mobile friendly. There's so much friction, if you will, in a lot of the traditional desktop conversion paths that when consumers pick up the smartphone, they're simply opting to call, and that's why you see the growth rates here. So earlier this month, DialogTech introduced a new program here called DialogTech Insights, which is a market research center focused on providing data and statistics from our platform to multi-channel marketers. And we saw some other very interesting trends. We saw that the percentage of calls across our customers increased 34%. The percentage of calls from mobile channels across our customers increased 34% in the last 6 months alone. If you annualize that number, it's a 78% increase. So it's growing very, very quickly as the secular trend towards mobile continues. And where we see our customers seeing most phone calls originating from is on the right-hand side of the chart here. So a lot from search. If you think about paid search by its very nature, there's a high level of intent there when you're looking for something in Google or Bing, which has a higher propensity to generate phone calls. A lot of calls as well from landing pages. The two of those combined represent 81% of the calls across our customers. And there's an interesting quote from the chief analyst at BIA, Kelsey, on this, which speaks to the fact that marketers love data, and getting attribution for everything that we do is really table stakes. And in the smartphone era, voice is essentially the new black. So interesting comments from the folks over at BIA, Kelsey. So that's really just an intro to kind of frame the discussion that we'd like to have here today. What we'd like to do next is transition into the opportunities that this presents for you. And as we mentioned, there are really 3 of them, and Brendan's going to talk us through the first.
Great, thanks, Steve. And I apologize in my haste to get things going because we're running a little bit late. I wanted to also mention that if you want to tweet about this webinar, you can use the hashtag 49ROI. So I just want to get that out there, and apologize for not doing that sooner. So, Steve is actually absolutely right. And the opportunity here is huge. And with attribution, we're looking at being able to attribute your marketing spend the correct way. So when we talk about, it's the title of our webinar, the 49% ROI mistake that marketers make when they don't accurately attribute call conversions. So if you take a look at this chart that we have here, if you have a typical landing page, let's pull some numbers and kind of average them out and look at a 2.4% landing page conversion rate. So someone coming to your landing page, filling out a form and converting. We look at all of our data internally to see what's the phone through rate? What are the percentage of people who are coming to a landing page and then picking up the phone and making a phone call? So being conservative, we say about 2.3%. So if you think about that, we're missing about half of the conversions coming to a particular landing page if you're not counting search. So you go from a 2.4% conversion rate up to 4.7 if you add calls into that mix. And this really causes you some big blind spots, some big gaps. The first thing is your ROI data. If you're figuring out how much return on investment is, you're looking at your spend, you're looking at the leads that you've got, and how many leads that spend and that channel converted, you're missing a huge number of conversions. So your ROI could be off by as much as 50%. The other thing too here is you're not being able to see which campaigns and which channels are driving traffic and conversions effectively. If you're using search, using social, using display, using all these different channels, you're not tracking which of those channels are driving phone calls, you're missing a big chunk of your campaign channel success and not being able to convert it and optimize it correctly. The last thing here too is your just inability to prove the marketing ROI. You're reporting inaccurate ROI data, and now you're not proving true ROI. You're not being able to go to the key stakeholders, the executives in your company, and tell them, yes, this channel is pushing the most ROI, and I know this because I'm tracking both the forms that are filled out and the phone calls that come in. And I want to show you sort of a real-world example here that we put together. So this is an example using paid search. In this example, we have a top row here that talks about the leads coming in that you're tracking and conversions that are coming in without call attribution. So if we see a $50,000 monthly marketing budget, and say you got 250 conversions, 250 web leads coming in through that paid search. Someone clicks on your ad, goes to your web page, a landing page, fills the form out. You have now 250 leads, and your cost per lead is $200. That seems good. You feel like you're running a good campaign there that's pretty efficient. Now you add call attribution. We use our earlier stat about the phone through rate, and we say, okay, that same $50,000 would drive 250 web leads, but it will also drive 245 phone leads for a total of 495 leads. And your cost per lead now goes down by almost half. So you're now able to say, God, this channel is actually driving 50% more conversions than I thought it was before. Being able to see those numbers and be able to optimize based upon that can be really key to success and really key to you getting the accurate information around your ROI and your cost per lead. And things are starting to get more complex. If you use your mobile phone, as most of us do, and you search, a lot of times you see an ad for something, say it's in Google, and they have the call extension there. They have the ability for you to just press a button and call right there, without ever clicking on that banner or that search result and going to the page. And we see this, that there are 40 million calls made from call extensions in September 2013. This is from Google data. The growth of call extensions has been absolutely phenomenal over the last 5 years. So people are physically just clicking the call on the phone and calling directly into your company. So being able to track those conversions is, again, key to you being able to track accurately the ROI and effectiveness of your campaigns. So, we talk about tracking calls, and I just wanted to just really quickly what that means. So call tracking basically is the ability for you as a website owner to insert either a single number or a dynamic number onto a landing page that is unique to that person and their visit and the campaign that they came from. In this ability, you're able to track the source if you're doing a single one-to-one number, or track the keyword and or the ad and or the web page that they came from, which would be dynamic numbers. What this basically means is that me as a user, if I click on a page search result and I come to your landing page, I will be shown a dynamic phone number that I would then be able to call, and the system would then report back, okay, this person clicked on this ad and came to this page, and they're from this channel, and based upon the CRM that you're using, we will just tell they converted or didn't convert. And that's kind of what we mean by call tracking at a very high level. So, one of our customers who has been able to really optimize their paid search effectively, actually extremely effectively, by using this call tracking and not missing this gap is HOTELSCORP, which is a subsidiary of Westgate, which is a huge resort company that is global. And they were not tracking calls before, and they integrated our own DialogTech call tracking data within their Google Analytics, and were able to then analyze and track the calls that were coming in and the sources they were coming into. And they were able to optimize their campaigns through paid search to drive 71% more bookings. They're able to see, okay, you know what, this campaign is driving more phone calls than this one. Let's reduce spend here, increase spend there. And by doing that over a period of time, they were able to increase the number of calls coming in. And for them, as a hotel and a resort, those flow calls coming in are extremely valuable to them and usually convert very highly. So just some stats specifically from HOTELSCORP. They were able to increase phone leads by 83%, and their bookings, which is the important part, which is the heart and soul of the business, went up by 71% just based upon them optimizing their campaigns on the phone calls that are coming in. And the great thing here, too, is the cost per conversion goes down. They're able to more accurately see which campaigns are driving the most conversions, optimize based on information, and then lower that cost per conversion, which has been great for the business and very important for their success. That's a bit about that opportunity. So the next opportunity, we're going to talk about personalization. And I'll pass it back over to Steve to walk you through that.
Great, thanks. So before we jump into the specifics of personalization, I think it's interesting to take a look at the value of phone calls versus some of the other modalities. So again, BIA-Kelsey data here that showed that phone calls are the most valued source of leads for most businesses, even more than in-store visits, email leads, web forms, etc. 66% of sales managers rate phone leads as good or excellent, more than any other type. And intuitively, that makes sense. If you get somebody on the phone, they tend to be more qualified, they've done their research, they have a higher level of intent, and they're more ready to purchase. For example, 62% of mobile searchers find it extremely important to be able to call during the purchase phase. And the proof is always in the pudding. Additional studies show that calls convert more frequently into actual paying customers to the tune of 10x. So it makes sense to try to give some extra TLC, if you will, to the phone calls that are coming into your business and doing whatever you can to personalize the experience for the callers. And there's a way to do that. You know, as you look to use solutions that call analytics and attribution and automation solutions, there's just so much data that can be used to start building profiles around the people that are calling. The campaign that drove them to pick up the phone, the referral source, the keywords that they used to search, what they did on your website before and after placing a call. All of this information can be used to make a routing determination, or said differently, who in my company should get this phone call and say hello? And it could be to an inside sales team, could be to a specific store, to a specific dealer, whatever the case may be, using information and metadata to figure out the optimal endpoint for every call. And there's a variety of business rules and workflows that you can use to do that. So if you have specific agents or groups of sales reps, you can distribute calls in different ways based on domain expertise, industry knowledge, schedules, locations, time of day, a variety of things around the marketing source or the campaign that drove them. And all of these will be different based on the needs of your business, but the idea is you're getting attribution for your phone calls. You understand a lot of the dynamics around what drives people to call your business. Don't just send them to the main company number. Don't introduce additional hurdles for them in the sales process. Use what you know about those customers to get them to the right place in your company. So another case study here of a customer of ours that implemented both the attribution and personalization solutions, Square One, which is a digital agency, and they were working with a large global HVAC manufacturer, and they were also working with a partner of ours, Kenshu, which is a bid management platform, if you're not familiar with Kenshu, that helps marketers optimize their bids and budgets for paid search campaigns. So they use call tracking to understand the conversions through the call channel, but then they used our IVR and routing technology to essentially create filters to weed out calls that weren't qualified or weren't ready for a sales process, and separated those from the ones that were, which then got routed dynamically to the closest local dealer within the HVAC network based on where that caller was coming from. So it added the ability for them to get sort of a local element to it and get those calls to the best dealer to serve the customer's needs. So in the first 5 months of working with DialogTech, they saw some pretty good results. They increased their overall call conversions by 75%, and they actually decreased their cost per call by 65% by optimizing and by getting those calls routed most efficiently. All right, so on to opportunity number 3. Brendan's going to take this one.
Great. So in this opportunity, we're going to talk about disposition. And this really flows into the idea of the customer journey and touch points that the customer journey now takes. There used to be a much more linear customer journey, and it's much less so now. You have so many possible devices and so many possible mediums that you're going to be touching your client, or your client's going to be touching your content, that you need to be able to know which ones are most effective for you. And when we talk about the phone call, we talk about a medium that's very effective for certain types of businesses and purchases. We talk about it here as the considered purchase, the purchase that requires more detailed information prior to making a purchase. The example we have here is that if I'm buying a new battery for my cell phone on Amazon, I don't need to talk to anybody. Go on Amazon, I can put it in the shopping cart, I can hit order, it's done, it's easy, no conversation required. If I'm buying life insurance, I'm probably going to want to call somebody. I'm going to have questions. I want to talk to someone about a fairly complex topic and find out more information about the company I'm using, what the benefits are, and all of the minutiae surrounding that. So when we talk about the considered purchase, we talk about that. And the phone call is key to that. And in certain industries, the phone call is very important. And so using some of our internal data, we went through to take a look at the phone through rates for people in these industries. This is people that are calling versus filling out a form or sending in an email. And we found there that in the internet and cable industry, it's a 20% phone through rate. So we think about our average phone through rate being 2.3%. The cable industry is 20%. Financial services is at 12%. Healthcare at 11%. These are big numbers. These are people that would much rather talk to somebody on the phone than fill out a form. And it's important for companies to understand that in these scenarios, they need to be adequately prepared to take those phone calls, but also track the channels those phone calls are coming from. Those phone calls are, as Steve mentioned before, are converting much higher, and they're much more valuable leads. On top of that, too, is the time of the phone call. You think about a phone call, oftentimes, is I want to get off the phone as quickly as possible. And in some industries, the length of the phone call is very important. Financial services is no surprise that on average, it's an 8.5-minute phone call. Now imagine trying to have an 8.5-minute phone call conversation through a form, through email, through chat on a website. It's just not going to be effective. You're not going to be able to communicate back and forth the way you'd want to. So in these instances, the phone call is really key to that customer journey. And it's a key part of you closing that sale and gaining that customer. So part of this, too, is not just the length of the phone call, how often they call, but what's said on the phone call, measuring the actual quality of the call. One of the things that we have here at DialogTech is a product it's called Conversation Insights, and it allows you, the company, to go back to a call after it's already been placed and search for keywords within the recording. So you can find out which keywords are said in phone calls that are positive calls or negative calls, calls that people convert into customers or don't convert to customers. And looking at those words, you are then able to understand how your callers convert and also evaluate the performance of the agents on the phone. Are they saying the right things at the right time to help push that call through and make that prospect into a customer? And it helps you then also modify how you create your scripts and train your agents to have more successful phone calls and to drive more leads. So the customer we talk about here is it's a global insurance provider. It's one of the top 5 insurance providers in the United States. they were able to use our software to figure out the most valuable calls that are coming in and how long they are and what's being said, and see a 14% increase in the phone leads using our software. They wanted to get insight into those calls they were receiving every month. They were receiving thousands upon thousands of phone calls. And our ability to attribute the calls in the source, made them able to then drive those calls more efficiently and to optimize their channel. And they've seen their phone leads increase by 14% in their first 4 months of using our system to be able to then optimize those channels. So I want to hand it back over to Steve here to talk a little bit more about our research and where it came from.
Sure. So I mentioned earlier that we recently launched a new initiative called DialogTech Insights, which is the research arm here at DialogTech. And a lot of the findings and metrics that we've shared with you today are from a research report that we published earlier this month that you can access if you go to our website. And the idea behind DialogTech Insights is to really provide information to marketers to help them better understand trends and strategies in multi-channel marketing so you can just do a better job as marketers. And a lot of it leverages data collected from our platform across our customer base of 5,000 companies. So with that, we'd like to thank everybody for your time and again for your patience, and we'd like to open it up to questions.
If there are any questions, feel free to enter them into the chat window there. We actually have a couple questions that were asked during the webinar. Let's try to get one here. So someone asked, when we say search, do you mean directly from the search ad, Google call extensions, or searches that land on the website? I'll answer the first part of this and then let Steve kind of expand upon it. But when we say search, we are saying someone who clicks on a Google call extension and makes a phone call and or clicks through to the website. Now, specific to someone using the call extension to click the call, that's tracked a bit differently, and I'll let Steve sort of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because search has another layer of complexity here that a lot of channels don't because of call extensions. And on mobile, the ad, if you just think back a few years to what Google Ads used to be, it was, you know, kind of the standard few lines of text. Now, an ad has a map and a call button and a directions button and sometimes hours and sometimes reviews. The ad essentially is becoming a landing page. So if somebody just clicks the call button right there from the ad, you want to understand that dynamic. So that's where call extensions come into play and where you want to track calls from those ads. The second way is for users that actually click on the ad, click through, get to a landing page where they are dynamically served a phone number to track calls from your website. So when we say search, we talk about both, and both are important.
Great, thanks. Let's see what else we have here. We have a couple of questions that are very similar, talking about, you know, the best way to sell, the importance of phone calls and phone tracking internally if it's not already in place. Steve, you want to answer that question?
The best way to sell phone tracking if it's not internally in place. Well, I'll tell you how we do it here at DialogTech as a marketing team. You know, ultimately, it's about demonstrating marketing's impact on revenue and on ROI. And so if you have data, if you can show data to your stakeholders, whether that's your exec team, your CEO, your clients if you're in an agency capacity, whoever it is, if you can show them the data that demonstrates the full impact your marketing is having on leads, on revenue, on ROI, that's the single most compelling way to make the case.
Great. So let's see, that's all the questions that we have. If there are any other questions, give anyone a chance to ask any more questions. If there are any other questions, I want to thank you very much for coming today, and thank you for your time. And we look forward to talking more with you about this information in the future.
Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.